Alrighty, it is 8 o'clock, so we're going to get rolling here. Just as a quick reminder, I do have the Q&A portion of the app turned on the right-hand side, so you can ask me your questions as you think of them, and I will check them after I get through the questions that have already been asked. And so let's get started. So hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good hump day and a good week so far. Real quick things. I already mentioned the Q&A portion, and again, I mentioned this last time, but I wanted to mention again that if you had a pedometer or step counting device like a Fitbit or your phone, please sign up for the website and app matchup.io and add me under the username Chuck Gross, and I'll add you to our monthly challenges. They're capped at 20 people. Just let me know. If you have a Fitbit specifically, you can look for me under my name, Charles G, and my user ID is 3MNDC3, and that way you can see me on Fitbit too without having to be part of the challenge specifically. Alrighty, so let's get on to the questions. The first two questions come from Tony. Tony's first question is, are there any benefits or downfalls to weighing yourself every day? This is a great question, Tony, so thank you for asking it. There are some definite benefits and downfalls to weighing yourself every day, but what these are going to kind of vary person to person. So solely looking at the daily weigh-ins from a data perspective, I think they're a great idea. Your weight can fluctuate up and down for so many reasons, like a change in your water, carb, and sodium intake, as well as the volume of food that you've eaten previously, the last time you had a bowel movement, etc. Because of this, I'm a fan of weighing in every day. But what we do with that data is we would then want to look at your average weight for the week, because when you have so many data points, what it is on a given day is irrelevant at that point. It's really the averages and the change in the averages from week to week that really matter at that point. So because of that, I am a fan of weighing in every day. I do it myself. Pairing the frequent measurements, getting the averages and then pairing that with frequent measurements of your circumference around different body parts, that will actually give you a clearer picture of what's really happening. This also has the benefit, once you get past the initial hurdle, of minimizing the importance of a single day. So single days simply do not matter in the context of our journeys. We have to look at what we do over time as a habit, the consistency, and that's really what matters the most. So if I could, I would ask that everyone that I work with weigh in every single day. First thing when they wake up, before drinking anything, and after using the bathroom. And again, this is truly the best way to see what's really happening with your progress. If you're watching this and you're not currently doing daily weigh-ins, let's talk about it. But with that said, there is one really big single downfall that I can think of, and that's being unable to get over that initial hurdle of having an emotional impact from the number you see from a single weigh-in. There's a follow-up question asked by someone else that kind of ties into this, but if you're seeing a number and you don't like what you see and you have an emotional impact from that, and then you're disappointed and you're demotivated because of it, that's a problem. And I'm not sure, it depends on you personally, if one single weigh-in can impact you emotionally. Is doing it more often really going to help you, or is it going to just make you feel disappointed every single day if it doesn't show what you expect? So you already have that danger when you're doing a once a week weigh-in for sure. It's when you have feeling disappointed every single day because the scale doesn't show what you want, that's a problem. I've found myself getting stuck on this before, where I started to become obsessed with the scale. I would weigh in first thing, and if I didn't like the number, I would try to go to the bathroom again and then try to weigh in immediately, or I'd weigh in later in the day. This is a really awful habit to get into, and I'm hoping to spare all of you that agony of being kind of caught in that cycle of obsessing over the scale. If you're weighing in multiple times per day right now, please message me immediately. We need to get you out of the habit of doing that. It's not good. It's not good for many reasons. And it's possible that you need to either weigh in less frequently or just avoid the scale entirely. So we do need to talk about that if you're starting to become obsessed with the scale number. Because as I've said multiple times, the scale number is not really by itself a measure of anything other than your relationship with gravity. So one way to think of it is that the number you see on the scale, you're recording that for my purposes, not yours. I don't want you to worry about that number. That's kind of my job. Like I said, the number just describes your relationship with gravity on Earth, and that relationship is complicated. So it's not something worth worrying over. That number doesn't have anything to do with how great of a person you are, or your self-worth, or how hard you've been working toward your goals. This journey is about your health, and the number on the scale doesn't dictate your health or your worth. Ideally, I wish there was a simple way for me to have you get me that number every day without you ever having to see it, with maybe like a giant piece of tape over the scale display. I mean, technically, I could ask everyone to get a Wi-Fi scale that just automatically sends the data off, but that's obviously not practical. So we kind of just have to work with what we have and do the best we can for your individual situation and how you're reacting to it. If you have a Wi-Fi scale, the one I have is the Withings Wi-Fi scale, and I connected it to my MyFitnessPal account. So what happens is when I weigh in, it automatically connects to my MyFitnessPal account and enters the weight into the MyFitnessPal weight tracker. It's rather difficult to automate getting that out of there, but there is a website called If This Then That. I think it's like IFTTT. Actually, let me double check before. Yeah, it's ifttt.com. And it's essentially allowing you to set up steps that connect a bunch of different websites and services you might use. One of the things you can do is if you have a Wi-Fi scale like that, you can have it automatically post your weigh-in daily to your progress sheet. I've never done that. I don't have a need for it. But things like that are possible. They're just not incredibly easy. And like I said, I'm not going to ask that someone go out and buy a scale just to get rid of that problem. So some things to think about. All right. Tony's second question is, what is your opinion on chia seeds? And it's funny, just before the hangout started, my wife and I were working on the grocery list, and chia seeds is one of the things on there. My wife and my son really enjoy having chia seeds on their Greek yogurt, so they both wanted me to get some more when I go shopping tomorrow. So I think this is a great question because chia seeds are one of those foods you may see promoted on TV or marketing as like a superfood. There's good and bad news if you think that. The bad news first. There is not much, if any, evidence to support any magical health-promoting benefits of chia seeds that you couldn't get from other similar foods. The good news is that chia seeds are a great source of fiber, which is obviously important to help you with your digestion, make you feel full, and in some cases, it can help you with your cholesterol levels. So if you're concerned about cholesterol levels, you probably want to be looking at a good source of fiber that you can eat regularly that would help improve those. So like I said, my wife and my son usually put them on top of their Greek yogurt. They're also good on a salad, give it a little bit of crunch. I personally view them as an easier to eat alternative to psyllium husks, but at the cost of being way higher in calories because they do have some fat content. Psyllium husks is basically Metamucil without any sugar or orange flavoring. It's just like a type of grain that's been ground up and it's powder. You put it in water and mix it in things. Compared to chia seeds, psyllium husk is really hard to eat. If you take a serving of psyllium husk and you mix it in water, if you don't drink it really quickly, it's going to turn into like some gelatinous goop, and it's pretty disgusting. So what I usually do is I mix it really quick and just chug it back incredibly fast. And there's always some goo left over in the cup. But like I said, the trade-off is that psyllium husk is almost no calories. Chia seeds, I think, are like 120 calories a serving. Not a big deal. It's just there is a difference there. So something to keep in mind. Alrighty. On to the last question. And this comes from Sandra. And this was related similar to Tony's question about the scale. So Sandra says, I'm getting results, but the scale just doesn't budge or it goes up. This is why I don't want to set weight goals, because it's a recipe for a letdown. So as I'm trying to stay motivated, what can I do about these letdowns when I step on the scale? So thank you for the question, Sandra. To speak to the specifics of what Sandra is experiencing is her clothes are fitting better. Her measurements are going down consistently, but her weight basically stays the same or is even going up. So it's possible there may be something wrong with the scale itself. Outside of that, there's some things we can kind of get into as to why that's possibly happening. I would like to mention that I have shared a video to everyone that explains, it's not something I made, it's from a fellow coach, made a really great tutorial about why weight fluctuates or goes up or stays the same. And I linked it to everyone. So please check for that in your respective groups and see if the link's in there. It's by Mike Vacanti. So please do check it out. It's a great video that pretty much goes into a lot of details as to why that would possibly happen. And it kind of reiterates the point I'm trying to make, is this: the scale alone is not a great measure of success in the short term. In the long term, yes. If you could say the scale hasn't changed in a year and you're still obese, probably something needs to change. But in the short term, it's not a great measure. And over time, the scale will eventually catch up with your progress. So with that said, if your measurements are going down, your clothes are fitting better, and people are noticing changes, that means progress is happening, regardless of what the scale says. You said you're getting results, Sandra, which is the whole point. I'd say to ignore the scale for now and instead focus on the process, the whole idea around making more healthful choices in your life, the habits around fitness, that become invested in that process and do the best you can to enjoy that process. And that's going to include things like making sure you include foods you like, and finding exercise that doesn't feel like exercise, something you really enjoy. So that's becoming invested in the process. And the other thing is, once you do that, you also still have a positive feedback loop of, I'm enjoying this journey, and my measurements are going down, and my clothes are fitting better. So there are lots of positives in there, even though the scale isn't moving. So it's really about accentuating the positives and really just ignoring the negatives for now. Because like I said, the scale number out of context is irrelevant. It doesn't really matter in the short term. So, and as I said, I believe that the scale will eventually catch up to what progress is really happening based on what you're showing through your measurements. Some other coaches have looked at a long period of time's worth of data, and the basic formula is that an inch loss on a body measurement is equivalent to about 4 pounds of fat being lost. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. All right. If you don't think you can stay motivated because of what the scale is showing you, then I would recommend not using the scale at all. We can go that route if you like to. Just please talk to me about it, and we'll see if we can basically switch over to just measurements and clothes fit from there, and seeing if that's a better metric for your progress and go forward from there. So just please let me know if you want to go that route. All right, that does cover all of the previously asked questions. And I don't see any questions being asked on the Q&A, and that's okay. I know I have a lot of you that do watch at a time other than when it's being broadcasted live, and that's all right. I know the time isn't going to work for everyone, but I have to make sure my kids are in bed before I start, because they'll be running around screaming. You won't be able to hear anything, and then I'm a early to bed, early to rise type of guy, so it's just kind of like when I'm able to do it. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions asked other than the 3 that I've answered. So I will post the Hangout again for next week. It'll probably be Wednesday again. That just seems to work better for me as far as being able to make it consistently. And if you have any questions in the meantime, always please do ask. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. And if you have a question that you'd specifically like to see on the Hangout, please let me know. You can just ask as you normally would. I know sometimes a question, the answer is a little bit differently perceived versus you reading it compared to like me actually talking about it out loud. So everyone have a great night, a great rest of your week, and I'll be talking to everyone soon. Take care.